All right, I'm back with another live stream. I'm trying to get through NXT today and also Evolve from last Wednesday and hopefully Impact from last Thursday. If I could knock all three of those out, that'd be awesome. I'm back at work though, so I'm keeping an eye on the door in case customers come in. But for right now, I have a minute and I'm going to review NXT today. And I'm gonna try out my new rating system. Well, it's the same review system, but I have a point counter now, and I'm just counting points differently. As you can see, I can add a point here and add a point there, take off points. So yeah, my review system's on the screen. I'll just be handing out points. This is the new way I'm doing it. Wherever I think something deserves points, or maybe deserves to have points taken off, I'm just gonna do it like that. So at my whims, everyone. We're trying to hit a high score here, hopefully. So let's see what we got today. I'm going to forego the traditional review of the week before. Instead, I'm just going to go through the show and I'll get reminded of what happened last week as I go, whatever storylines that arise and pop up. So, first segment of the day, we had a match, I believe. Yes, there's Wesley and Joe Hendry. So, Trick Williams opened the show, came out to join commentary. He's the TNA World Champion, and he has taken that title from Joe Hendry, a TNA wrestler, and has brought it to TNA. So that's the overarching story here. The overarching story is that Joe Hendry, and as we'll see, as we'll talk about in a second, Mike Santana are going to defend the honor of TNA and try to get that title back from Trick. All right, so there was some significant moments that I'll point out in this match. I guess there was a moment on the outside when Joe Hendry went out there and faced off with Trick, had an intense stare down to kind of show, hey, I'm here for you. But he did that thing, with his gimmick where he turns and faces the camera. So he did that and turned and faced Trick Williams, all serious, if I can describe that in some way. But if it's the one thing that I'm going to give negatively about this whole storyline today, it's that the overarching fact that I don't really love Joe Hendry's gimmick, and I think it can only go so far. But regardless of that, I'm not taking that into account today. I'm just going to talk about what goes on in the match today or in the storyline. So there was an interference spot. Wesley and Tyreek, his boys Tyreek Ikwe and Tyson DuPont, right? So the first interference spot was Tyreek grabbed Joe Hendry's leg. So they did get involved in this. And let's see, that led to a nice dive. There was a dive through the middle ropes, an athletic spot. That's something I might give some points to. I think I have it saved right here. It's Wesley diving through the middle ropes at Joe Hendry. Looking, sorry, with the volume on there. But yeah, we'll play it again. Pretty athletic looking dive. I like that. I'll dole out a half point there. Why not? Let's add a half point to our total review here. So we're at a half point. But back to the match. Let's see what else. Another interference spot. So it looks like Joe Hendry was going to have Wesley ready to finish him off. And this time Tyreek and Tyson both got up on the ring apron to distract the ref from this. And they brought out Santana. So that lured out Mike Santana. Mike Santana was like, had seen enough, defending his boy. I guess Wesley is aligned with Trick Williams at this minute. He's supposed to be taking care of Joe Hendry for Trick today. And Mike Santana's just not going to have it with Trick Williams at all, basically. So he's decided he's going to interject himself here. Although he's not directly involved in this, he doesn't really need to help Joe Hendry. But since Trick is the TNA World Champion, he felt the need to get involved. So there you go. All right, so Santana took out Tyreek and Tyson, the high rise as they're called, and left Wesley in the ring to get gobbled up by Joe Hendry. So that was the match. And then I guess there was a little post-match, not really an afterbirth, I wouldn't call it, but Santana and Joe Hendry, as you see there, and Trick Williams is standing on the announce desk gloating that he has the TNA World title. So they're both looking at Trick like, hey, we're both coming after you. All right. So I'm going to reserve some judgment on some later comments, as this will come up a little bit later on in the show as well. But for right now, I'm going to move on from it. Alright, next up, we're at a backstage segment. This has to do with Tatum Paxley, who had been depressed since her friends got cut. It was Shotzi and Gigi Dolan, who used to be in her little stable or circle of friends. And they got released, so they were running a storyline where she was just depressed and crying to herself all the time. And the only people who would actually care about her and offer their friendship was Sol, Ruka, and Zarya, right? So then Tatum tried to come out and help them in a match, or at least just join them at ringside, and that distracted Zarya to lose a match. So they were kind of, annoyed with her about that. And then we had Izzy Dame, who was trying to also get Tatum's friendship, which was a little weird because she's been a heel with the culling. So anyways, last week, Tatum went out with Izzy Dame, because Izzy Dame had that four-way for the NXT title shot, to get an NXT title shot, which ended up getting won by Jordan Grace. But regardless, Sol, Ruka, and Zarya stuck their nose in there and dragged Tatum away from the ring, leaving Izzy Dame to get beat. So this was after that. So this is a clip they showed from last week, I guess, that they had recorded but never shown. And Izzy Dame, well, first it started with Tatum. Tatum was asking them why you did that. Why did Sol, Ruka, and Zarya did that? And they were like, well, don't trust Izzy. You shouldn't trust Izzy. Then Izzy comes in all hurt from the match. She's like, she was pissed at Sol, Ruka, and Zarya, not at Tatum. She's been very nice to Tatum. For some reason, she wants to pull Tatum into the culling or something, which, I don't know. I mean, at this point, the only people who seem kind of disreputable is Sol, Ruka, and Zarya, because they weren't really good friends to her, I would say. But Izzy also seems disreputable, I guess you could say, because she kicked Brooks Jensen out of the culling, and we still haven't gotten any explanation for why she did that. So she just said, well, he's not trustable, and she did it, and Sean Spears was like, okay. Plus, I guess the fact that she hangs out with fucking Sean Spears, that makes her a disreputable chick. But anyways, Tatum looks like she wants to join this Izzy Dame friendship, and that's what happened here. And Zarya's like, fine, if you want to be with her, go ahead. And then Izzy's like, yeah, we should be a tag team. And Tatum looks at Sol, Ruka's like, yeah, we should be a tag team. So she is fully in it with Izzy Dame now. And then little silly thing to end the segment, Sol, Ruka kind of stuck her tongue out to them as they walk away, to Tatum and Izzy. So yeah, we got the alliance set in stone now. Tatum is with Izzy Dame. So for this segment, I'm going to give this a half thumbs up. I'm going to say this was a good vehicle. It moved the storyline forward. The acting, I don't know. I think Izzy and Tatum did okay. Other than that, I don't know. There's something about the segment that just didn't seem totally realistic, but I thought it was all right. So in terms of the storyline and everything it means and the significance, I'll add another half point on this for me. I guess we'll see if anything comes up later on this one. Moving along, though. Next up, we had the big meeting between Tony D'Angelo and Luca Crucifino of the family. And this is the big summit where Tony's kind of trying to ask Luca if he can be trusted. It's been weeks of ambiguous things happening where it looks like Luca hits Tony, but it seems like it could be an accident too. They've been doing a really good job keeping us guessing. Anyways, Tony finally got frustrated with Luca last week and nailed him. So here we are again. They're having an in-ring discussion. And Luca, if I'm to paraphrase a little bit, I'm just summarizing, but he was going through all these things, like how he quit this and he did this and he did this just so he could make it to WWE, and that's all because of Tony, I guess. So he's like, how could you not trust me? You know what I mean? Then we got Stax coming out. Stax comes out and he says, no, he's with me. And then that's when Luca nails Tony D'Angelo. Tony D'Angelo's telling Stax, like, hey, get out of here, man. Like, this is our business. And then he just socks him out of nowhere. I was like, whoa, that's how they did it? So at that moment, it seemed like he's with Luca. And then, no, sorry, that Luca's with Stax. Sorry about that. So Stax gets in the ring. He's hugging Luca like, yeah, he was with me the whole time. And then Luca turns around and socks Stax. So they're both laying there, Tony and Uh, Stacks are laying there, and Luca grabs the mic. He goes, "My loyalties are to me. I'm tired of all this," and that's how he walks off. So, all right, you know what? They got me. Because I was trying to wonder the whole time. I was thinking, like, is he with Tony or is he against Tony? For a long time, I thought he was with Stacks. Then last week when Tony nailed him, I was like, well, maybe he's not with Stacks. So I didn't fucking know. They finally revealed it here. He's not with anyone. It could still be a swerve, but you know what? I'll give him a point here for keeping me on my toes and everything. So I'm at 2 points on my NXT review so far. Next segment. Alright, next up we got a little backstage thing. It was an interview. Oba Femi was getting interviewed, and he got interrupted by Yoshiki Inamura, who's with his tag team partner, Josh Briggs. So Inamura, after getting the pin over Trick in a tag team match, handed that potential world TNA title match over to Josh Briggs, who ended up losing it. And Inamura instead wants the NXT title. So here we are today. He is going to face Jasper Troy for a shot at Oba Femi's title. So Jasper Troy, who had just gotten a shot at NXT title against Oba Femi and lost in his young WWE career. Good showing. He didn't win, though. He lost clean. But still, it was a hard-fought match for Oba Femi, who looked kind of at his equal in terms of physical and size. But yeah, so Inamura is here, and this segment was a little funky. It's always a little funky when they let Inamura talk because he can't speak very well English, and he just tries his best. He gets the lines out. It's a little muddy, it's a little choppy, but, you know, I don't know. That's why I can't really give this backstage segment any points. I'm not adding any points here. I wasn't in love with this segment. But regardless, it is Inamura who wants that title shot, so here he is stepping up to the champion. And I guess we'll see later on, because that match is Jasper Troy and Inamura are going to get down at the end of the show. So I'll keep an eye out for that. I'll hold off further judgment, until we watch what happens there. But let's move along. Alright, next up, we got Lexis King and Miles Bourne in a singles match. So this match stemmed from a segment that happened last week when Lexis King found Miles Bourne backstage and wanted to talk to him. I don't know if he wanted to talk to him about possibly getting aligned or forming an alliance or something, but Miles Bourne was talking to the Florida Gators. I guess he's a football fan in the storyline. So he was kind of distracted with them and didn't really want to talk to Lexis King. And Lexis King was a little miffed, a little offended by this, and then that's how we got today's match. Good booking. I like the booking. Miles Bourne, who they're not forgetting about. It looks like they still kind of trying to keep him in the loop, not necessarily being pushed to the moon like he was a few weeks ago. But still, good, decent matchup. Lexis King is a good opponent for him, and he ends up winning this today and celebrating with those same Florida Gators football players, I guess, that are sitting in the crowd today. So that's good for him. As for Lexis King, I don't know if it means anything that he takes a loss. I thought the work was good all around here, but I don't know if this means that Lexis King is someone they're not looking to push or bring up. He's certainly gotten a fair shake. He's been given chances to shine on this show. He's been on here for a while. I don't see any hint of him getting moved up to the main roster or anything. I don't know if they're getting ready to give up on him or if there's something about him that they're not really liking, but it's a little worrisome for me, him just taking a clean loss like this, because I think in the end, wins and losses do matter to a certain extent. You know, sometimes it doesn't if you're a really good worker and that's just what you're out there to do. But here it's just a match with Miles Bourne, who, you know, I think they probably see more potential in him being a babyface since he has the handicap of not being able to hear. So some people might feel sympathy with him, and they might be able to get more babyface sympathy out of that for the main roster, I guess. He also looks amazing physically. So I see the potential and the upside in Miles Bourne. But in terms of Lexis King, I also see the upside there. I don't know if it's his promos or something that they're just not liking or is not clicking, or his character or anything, but I guess it remains to be seen. But I'm going to give a point for this match. I like the match overall. I like the booking, so I'm still going to add a point on my review for today's NXT. 3 points total so far. Moving on. Alright, then next up we got Dark State in the house, not really in the arena or on the show again. It's been a few weeks. I can't recall the last time they were really on the show, but they're trying to remain relevant. They're saying that, yeah, it's still our show. We still run this show. I don't know about that. At this point, honestly, it's been so long. How could you be running this show? But anyways, they say they're going to attack soon or something. They know what their next move is, but the people don't. But anyways, in terms of their promos, I guess who I could say is decent. I think this guy, Saquon Sugars, he might be the best promo. Cutler James, unfortunately, is not believable. He's just a white guy that doesn't really have much personality, unfortunately. He could have personality, but in terms of what they're trying to portray here as these badass dudes who are, running roughshod like gang style, I don't buy this guy. Dion Lennox also, maybe his persona before he joined Dark State or formed Dark State kind of hurt him a little bit, but he was kind of just a normal guy, so I don't really buy him as a gangster either. And Osiris Griffin, I don't know, he's probably in between to me. Like he's probably the second best promo on this crew. But regardless, none of this is really doing anything for me. I'm not handing out any points here today. I'm at an indifferent for this segment. I think the booking has been shoddy. I think they were good workers when they were put to work on the show, but unfortunately, it's just been too stop and go. They haven't been around for so long, and it's not like they don't have any credibility. Like they had some moments where they attacked some top level guys, had some matches with some top level guys, and had that 3-on-3 with Obafemi, Trick, and Javon Evans. So they hang in there with the best of them. They just haven't been around. So what do you want me to say? These little 2-minute video packages are not going to do much for me, man. Got to get this going. Oh, sorry, my final score count. I dropped it. There it is. We're still at 3.0. All right, I'm not adding any points for this segment, so I'm remaining at 3 points. Moving on. All right, next up, we got an interesting little women's matchup between Lainey Reed, and Thea Hale. So this stemmed from last week. Thea Hale was like kind of talking with some of the boys backstage and giving advice, I guess, because she's an NXT veteran now at this point. She was talking to some of the younger wrestlers that are just coming up. And Lainey Reed came in and, stepped up to her, and that turned into a match for them. So a little disrespect. I forgot exactly how the segment went down, but it was something to that effect. Anyways, this match was kind of ridiculous. I think Lainey Reed started to show some heel tendencies, tried to put the foot on the ropes the first time. Referee caught it. Second time, here she is. You can see this is the image I chose. She's holding the rope with one hand, and Thea Hale's right arm is under the rope completely. So this is a win for Lainey Reed, which she needed one, I guess. She's the newbie. And she looked good. I would say her work looked good. This was a pretty solid matchup, work-wise. I can't say anything bad from either one of them. I just think it was pretty ridiculous, the ending. For how ridiculous it was, I'll probably still give a half point here. So yeah, sorry, got interrupted for a second. But yeah, that was so outright ridiculous. I'll still give a half point here. Just for making the referee look dumb. Sometimes I don't like it, but this one was so outrageous. And Lainey Reed, she needed a win. So there she is. She's still going to celebrate it. There's an extra bonus picture for you here post-match. She's pretty happy about it. But anyways, moving on. Let's see what we got next. Alright, we got the next segment here. It's backstage. It's with the No Quarter Catch crew, or what's left of it, the NQCC as it's called in some circles. It's Charlie Dempsey and it's Tavion Heights are all that's left in this. But Ren Sinclair is still there as well. I'm sorry, she's part of the group, I should say. But yeah, so Tavion's been wanting out of this group just like Miles Bourne did. And Tavion lost a match last week. He was facing off against Javon Evans, and he had his face in a mask because Charlie Dempsey broke his nose, I guess, in training. So that was the out he had, the reason why he couldn't win that. And so he's stuck in NQCC. That's the story here. So he's talking here with Charlie Dempsey. They're getting testy. There's obviously tension here. And he wants out again. He wants the same deal Miles Bourne had. And he wants to face off against Dempsey. And if he beats him, then he wants out. And Ren Sinclair's all in there trying to keep the peace and keep them, calm and together or whatever. But yeah, eventually Charlie Dempsey does agree to the match. So they shake hands, and that's going to happen next week. Charlie Dempsey's like, yeah, you shouldn't do that because it's going to be another loss for you, but fine, here you go. And that's it. So that's the segment. Honestly, I think I've been a critic of this whole storyline and everything since they've started to try to break up the NQCC. I'm like, well, if you want out, why don't you just leave? What is this like? I don't understand why they're emboldened to this stable. They can't just walk off. Like, is there some type of contract that I don't know? Maybe I didn't hear about at the beginning when this team formed. So that's the one thing that I don't really understand about it, and I don't really like about it. So yeah, if Tavion wants to leave the group, just fucking leave the group. I don't know. I don't know why he has to win a match to earn his freedom here. But anyways, regardless, I'm at a thumbs down on this whole thing. So I'm going to take off 1 point on my review for NXT this week. Moving along. All right, next up we got Jasper Troy. He's cutting a promo. He's here to face off against Yoshiki Inamura in the main event tonight with a chance at another NXT title shot. So how lucky is this guy? Got an NXT title shot right off the bat, stepping up to Obafemi. And now he has a chance at another one, even though he failed the first time. Lost clean, competitive matchup though. But he is getting another shot. He's still in the mix. He's got a good look, I would say. And the chains thing works for me. The only problem is that he keeps losing. But I'm gonna get to that when I talk about the main event. For right now, on this promo, I will say I found it very interesting that they send these guys out very AEW style that just take a loss and be like, all right, well, that's it. That's your situation now. You lost clean, just work with it, and see if you could dig your way out of that hole. I think that's a very interesting thing because a lot of people wouldn't accept a loss because they wouldn't know how to talk themselves out of that hole of being buried. But here, I thought he did a decent job. He's like, yeah, well, as dominant as you are, you barely survived against me, and I'm a newcomer. So there you go. He kind of put himself over a little bit, and he thinks he deserves another shot. I think he kind of saved himself well here for getting buried and losing. I think he kind of made himself seem still significant up till this point. We got to talk more about the main event later when we get there. But for this promo, I will say I'll give it a little half thumbs up. All right, you saved your ass. Let's add a half point to the freaking thing here. 3.0, we're back to 3 for NXT this week. Struggling. Some NXTs get a lot of points from me. This one is not really getting anywhere. I'm almost halfway through the show. But let's see if there's anything that could save it. I'm moving on to the next segment. Alright, here we are at the next storyline. This is the match for the Sol Ruca and Zarya thing against Tatum Paxley and Izzy Dame. So, the story of this match, well, I will mention that Izzy and Tatum came out, but they didn't introduce Tatum as being in the culling officially. They kind of introduced her separate, and then they said the culling's Izzy Dame. So that could be something they work towards, like getting Tatum officially in the culling. She looks the part. I think she would fit in. But important spots, significant spots in this match. There was a nice little high spot I will mention. It was Sol Ruca. Well, to describe it a little differently, Zarya had Tatum Paxley on her back, and then Sol Ruca climbed from the top rope onto Tatum's back and stood on her back, did a little surfboard thing. So then she jumped off her back onto Izzy Dame on the outside. I thought that was cool. I'm going to give that a point. So I'm going to give, just for that little spot that I don't really see very often, I'm going to give that a point. But yeah, afterwards, after Sol Ruca did this spot, Zarya threw Tatum, lifted her up over her shoulders and threw Tatum onto Izzy. So double move there, double move combo. I like that. But later in the match, there was a spot where Zarya was trying to spear one of the other girls on the other team and accidentally nailed Sol Ruca. So that was like, she was very perturbed with herself, obviously pissed off at herself. There have been hints even, I think, but that's just my feeling, that there is some kind of romantic angle brewing between these two, because the way Zarya looks at Sol Ruka, it's like there's got to be something more there, but maybe I'm just projecting my own mind there or something like that. I don't know. But regardless, yes, after the match, she was very regretful, trying to apologize, hold Sol Ruka and console her, and but regardless, yes, they didn't win the match. Tatum and Izzy win the match, and then post match we got a little celebration here as the culling. There's Nico Vance lifts Tatum over his shoulder. They're being very welcoming to her, but yes, so this is looking good for the recruitment of Tatum Paxley to the culling. That's all I'll say for now. There's a little bit more to this storyline. I'll give a final thought on this whole thing when we get there. But for right now, I'll move on to the next thing we had on NXT here. All right, next up, we got Ethan Page and Ricky Saints. So their long saga is continuing. Ricky Saints seems to have recovered from his throat injury that he suffered in his last match against Ethan Page. Kept him out for a while. He was talking like this for a while, trying to sell the injury with his raspy voice, which was kind of, I call those bold angles in wrestling when it's something very difficult to do, but they try it anyways. NXT is a very bold promotion in that sense. They've had that one, and they had the Javon Evans one where he had his mouth wired shut. So yeah, Ethan Page, they've kind of made him out to be a bit of a serious a repeat injurer, like major offense of injuring. Sorry, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but he has done some very rough things to people, namely to Javon Evans and Ricky Saints. But anyways, here we are. Ricky Saints is back, and he's trying to get another match with Ethan Page, and he's in the office with Ava. And last week when Page found out that he was going to have this meeting with Ricky Saints, he called on his cell phone to his boys on Evolve, the vanity project, who I'm big fans of. They are Swipe Right. This is Brad Baylor and Ricky Smokes, and Jackson Drake is also the third member of Vanity Project, who is currently the Evolve champion. So he's got a nice looking belt on his shoulder. So yeah, he basically offers or Ricky Saints offers, like, what if I get through the Vanity Project gauntlet? Then I'll get my shot at Ethan Page. And everyone agrees, everyone's down. There was a funny moment, though, when Ava looked at all the guys in Vanity Project and told them, like, yeah, if you guys want to climb up the ladder here, you don't want to be friends with this guy. And they were just kind of like, yeah, whatever. So they didn't really care. Although, really, in the storyline wise, kayfabe wise, they should actually care what Ava thinks, because she has a lot of stroke around here. But yeah, Ricky Saints, he's going to have to run the gauntlet. 3 members of Vanity Project. That's a tough task, even though they're kind of newbies. I will say that I'm not sure if I really think Ricky Saints should go over all 3 members of Vanity Project. I don't know. I think they've got really high potential. I don't think I want to see them lose. The way I would book it is he would beat Smokes and Baylor to start. And then he would start off and face Jackson Drake, and who was very skilled and probably could put in some good looking, kill some time and look pretty good doing it, is what I'm trying to say. And Ethan Page could come in, interfere, distract, whatever, and cause Saints to lose. So I think that would be better off for everyone, and he could still try to get a match somehow with Ethan Page without burying the whole Vanity Project. But that's just me, because I just think very highly of them. I think they've caught on to wrestling really quick. From what I've seen, they get a lot of practice on the indies, and they just do a lot of the simple things in wrestling really well, and they draw good heel heat. They do their characters immensely well, so I'm a big fan of Vanity Project. For this segment, I'll give it a half thumbs up here. Nothing too amazing, nothing too memorable here. But yeah, just nice to see Vanity Project in there on NXT for the night, so at least they got a segment. Half a point there, plus 1/2 point. 4.5 points so far. Let's move along. All right, next up we got Chase U, Andre Chase, who had ran off his 2 new apprentices last week. being super mean and strict with them. So Dixon and Connors kind of ran out of the classroom last week. So I was like, is that it? Is that the end? After they did all this work to make him, come back, they just kind of ditched him. But no, so this week the update is that Andre Chase apologized to them for how he was acting and offered to compromise so they could carry on doing whatever it is they're doing here. I don't know. Having a fake university or pretending to be a teacher. I don't even know what it is, to be honest. But regardless, they're going to carry on, I guess. And they're going to be a stable, is what this comes down to. And I still think overall that Ridge Holland has to be a part of this somehow. I keep reminding the audience of this. Like, I don't know why he disappeared. I don't know. He just kind of lost to Ricky Saints, I think, put him over, and that's the last that we saw of him. And that kind of opened the door for Andre Chase to bring Chase U back, even though he lost the stipulation match. I keep repeating this over and over again. Why was he allowed to do that? I don't know. So whenever Ridge Holland comes back, it seems like he should get on his case about this. So we'll see if that'll happen. As for this, I don't dig this too much. I'll throw a half point in there just because they carried the story along, they moved the story along, and they're not going to break up. So at least they did something on this today. I'll give a half point just to be nice. But I'm moving on to the next angle. All right, next up, it's a backstage interview with Joe Hendry and Mike Santana of TNA. So they're from TNA. They're here as guests, technically, working on some kind of day-to-day contract, I presume. But they basically say that they have respect for each other, and they're like, or Santana particularly said to Joe Hendry, look, our feud is not as important as TNA and getting that world title back for TNA, and Trick is the ultimate enemy here. So they're both going after Trick, is basic premise here. So this will conclude the TNA portion of the show on NXT, NXTNA as I would call it. But yeah, what do I think of today's storyline so far? They beat Wesley, Joe Hendry did. Mike Santana saved Joe Hendry from a, double team attack or whatever, distraction. They were trying to help Wesley. And then now they kind of had a discussion. They put TNA over and they say, keep the most important thing in mind. TNA is what matters. TNA is what matters. So I've been hearing some people throw out criticisms that TNA has not been getting a good end of this deal, that they give their best wrestlers away to WWE and WWE don't really give them anything in return, and that it hasn't really helped them in the ratings. So I have to say, I think I basically disagree. I think the creative has kind of stunted a little bit for TNA since the WWE got involved. There was a lot of interesting things that kind of got cut off, namely the whole JBL storyline they had going on. But regardless of that, it seems like things are on the upturn for TNA, mostly because every time they have a show and they go on the road, it's freaking packed and people are digging it and they're into it. What more could you ask for than enthusiasm, full seats, butts in seats? So I don't know. I think something is giving me the sense like this WWE thing is working for TNA. And as long as they don't go under and have to sell to WWE, I think that's the main important thing here. I mean, hey, they're getting to put their show over on WWE TV. They're on WWE TV saying how much TNA matters, how much the TNA World Title matters. That's important. That's cool. You know what I mean? That's significant. So this was a good episode for TNA on NXT, I believe. They weren't made to look trashy. And Trick Williams actually cares about that title. He's holding it like it means something. They get to have 2 world titles here on a 2-hour show, a once-a-week 2-hour show. So that really beefs up their show. Not only do they have Oba Femi here and people fighting for his title, but people are fighting over that TNA title too. That beefs up this 2-hour show to the max. It's not like Raw and SmackDown where they both have 1 world title and you're lucky if you even see the champion. So this has been still, to me, going both ways. I think it still benefits both parties as of right now. So as of overall, I'll still give a thumbs up on this day to this whole thing with TNA and NXT and trying to get this world title back from Trick Williams' shoulders. But There it is. I'm at a +6 now on today's review. Moving on to the next one. All right, real quick segment backstage. Inamura is with Briggs, and he tells Briggs, I'm going to go out there alone for this #1 contenders match. So I'm not going to give any points on this one, just to fill you in on what happened on the storyline there. But moving on to the next segment. All right, next up we got the culling. All right, so this is the conclusion for the culling tonight. We got a backstage segment. Before Ava ran into them, the culling were just talking amongst themselves, and Nico Vance was pretty funny because he's so serious and stone-faced. But he was trying to tell Tatum how, I really see our chemistry coming together with Tatum and Izzy. So they're really putting the full court press on to get this girl in their group. They really want her. So I don't know if they have bad intentions or not. I can't really tell. But regardless, Ava comes in and tells Izzy that she's got a North American title shot against Sol Ruca since she ended up pinning Sol Ruca in that tag match. All right, but within this segment, another storyline comes up as Hank and Tank walk in. And I didn't talk about this earlier because I didn't do a review of last week or, just a summary of what happened last week. But Hank and Tank did suffer a backstage attack, a backstage beatdown. And I guess that had Dark State's fingerprints on it because Dark State had been the ones in recent months who have been attacking people backstage. So I guess that's the only thing that came to my mind. Otherwise, I couldn't think of anyone else or if it's someone new. But it turns out Hank and Tank are accusing the culling. So they said, yeah, we saw you, we recognize you, and we think it was you. And then Tatum Paxley steps in, their new buddy, and is like, no, man, they would never do that. My new friends would never do anything like that. So she basically tells them, yeah, if you want a piece of these guys, why don't you put those NXT tag titles on the line? So she got them a tag team title match for the culling. So Tatum Paxley's friendship with the culling paying off for the culling here, interestingly enough, and that was cool. All right, so I'm gonna judge these two segments separately. I think I'm gonna go back to this one, to the culling storyline without Hank and Tank and everything that went on today. So for that whole thing, I'm gonna add a point. I think I like everything that's going on with the culling so far. I think it's been done well. And for the Hank and Tank thing, I really like that. I think I'm going to give that 2 points because Tatum Paxley standing up for them I think was pretty hilarious. So, oh shit, hold on. There you go. I'm at 9 points now. So, 2 points, 2 thumbs up for Hank and Tank against the culling and Tatum Paxley being involved. Hey! Alright, sorry about that. I keep getting interrupted today. I'm trying to get through this NXT review, but it's not easy. I keep getting interrupted. But anyways, yes, my point I was trying to make was that I'm very much liking the dynamic here of Tatum defending her basically evil cohorts, even though she doesn't really think they're evil yet. I guess she doesn't watch the show. But to them, they've been really nice. To her, I mean, they've been really nice. So, I don't know. I guess it makes sense. But I just like it. I think it's hilarious. I really like that one. I'm giving this whole thing. It was a surprise also that the culling were the mystery assailants of this backstage assault. Just like a similar angle that they've been having on NXT, or not NXT, Evolve, where there's been a mystery assailant backstage beating women up. This time it was a male tag team. Not Dark State this time, it was the culling. Okay, so tag team title match. I think it might be time to get those titles off Hank and Tank. They're good and everything, but I don't know, man. There hasn't been going anything with their title reign so far that I can remember. So I say change it up and give it to the culling. Why not? They could use it. Maybe a North American title for Izzy and tag team titles for Nico and Shawn Spears. I could see that. Why not? Why not? And Tatum Paxley all the while, they're ace in the hole. That's going to help them. I think I like it. So let's see what happens there. But I'm going to move on for now. All right. Next up, we have the #1 contenders match for the NXT title. It's Inamura and Jasper Troy. So to make a long story short, Inamura is a strong-ass dude. He was picking up Jasper Troy and everything here. And he did his move, his famous frog splash move, which I really love how it looks. It's that one. I think he does it so well for his body. It looks so good. But yes, I'm gonna give a point for his frog splash just because I think I'm a big fan every time he nails it. But Inamura picks up the win here. So post match, yes, he does face off with Obafemi, and I think I'm only giving a point to the frog splash. I'm not giving any points to the match or to the setup of how this match came about. I'm gonna say indifferent. Also, I think it's kind of weird that Jasper Troy loses his second match in a row, despite them trying to make him look like a beast since he's been up. But I don't know. I think his gimmick works pretty well. He's got the chains thing. When he's coming to the ring, they close up on the chains on the floor, dragging on the floor, and then he's just taking two bad losses. So I don't even know what to think of that. But they did set him up with another storyline, which I guess I'll give a half point to. I'll add a half point to Javon Evans coming out of nowhere and taking out Jasper Troy. This is a receipt because Javon Evans was attacked by Jasper Troy in his recent rampage where he's been trying to, make a name for himself since he's been promoted to NXT. But yeah, that's all I got for that. I'll give Javon Evans and Jasper Troy a half point. That could be a good matchup. But again, another loss for Jasper Troy. So what the fuck? I don't know what the fuck they're going to do with him after that. But okay, moving along. All right, and finally, I got the last segment of the show here. It's the closing segment. Jordynne Grace came out to cut a promo because she's got the next NXT title shot. And she was talking about everything she's done, how hard she's worked to get here and all that. And then she gets confronted by the NXT champion herself, JC Jane, with her two cohorts in the Fatal Influence. So they kind of, yip-yap back and forth to each other a little bit until JC Jane kind of gets tired of it and nails Jordynne Grace with an elbow. So they start scuffling, and then in runs Blake Monroe to make the save for Jordynne Grace, because last week Fatal Influence beat the crap out of Blake Monroe and put her through a table. So, well, I'm not sure if that was last week, but that was Blake Monroe's last appearance as of this moment. So yeah, she came in to make the save, and then Fatal Influence ran out of the ring all pissed off. Ava shows up. They're like, what are you going to do about this? And Ava, after taking a while to get them all to calm down, makes a tag team match for the Great American Bash, which is the next show, the next PLE, pay-per-view, whatever you want to call it. So I'm not sure when that NXT title match is supposed to take place then, because I guess I wasn't paying close enough attention. I don't know why that isn't at the Great American Bash. Maybe they're saving that for NXT or something. Maybe they got enough prepared for that show. So it looks like there's no NXT title match for the women on Saturday, but instead they're going to have a tag team title match. Or not a tag team title match, just a tag team match. It's JC Jane and Fallon Henley against Blake Monroe and Jordynne Grace. So one thing interesting about this segment here is that Jasmine Nix has been back with them. That's this girl right here. And she has returned to join the stable as she was out for a while, injured. But once the scuffle started, and once they started getting down with Jordynne Grace, she kind of left the ring, went to the ringside area, and kind of just turned into like a manager, valet kind of person that just cheers for them. And I'm like, okay, well, she probably can't do anything physical. But it would have been better if they had kind of told us this. It just didn't really make sense why she's like there talking shit, acting like she's going to gang up on her. And then once the fighting started, it was just 2-on-1. And then when Blake Monroe evened the odds, it was 2-on-2. So, all right, that's one thing that I thought was a little interesting, I guess. I don't know when she'll be cleared to actually help them out physically. You'd think it would be useful. But as of right now, JC Jane and Fallon Henley are going to have a tag match, and that looks like it's going to be Blake Monroe's first match in NXT. So as for Blake Monroe, she was coming out there. She was running out. Again, the commentators, it's her. Just like in the beginning when they just introduced her when she didn't have a name. So maybe they're not so comfortable using that name yet, Blake Monroe. Maybe that's a way to make her seem more over than she actually is. Like, oh my God, it's her. But yeah, basically, that's all. That's all for my review. I'll just say for that last segment, I don't want to give it too much credit. I know Blake Monroe ran in. I'll give it a half thumbs up. I'll give it a little Orange Cassidy. Kind of liked it. It'll take my final score for today's NXT to 11 points. 11.0. Not a bad score. Started off slow, but hey, anything over positive to me is a show worth watching. That's how I rate these wrestling shows. But yeah, the other day I just did Night of Champions, and I gave it 30 points easily. So just a little bit of a comparison. But I think this was more than my Raw review from the night before. So this was definitely, to me, more enjoyable than Monday Night Raw, especially since it's only 2 hours, got out of the way quick, got more points out of it, squeezed more points out of it to me than Monday Night Raw. So yeah, I think that's a good barometer. I like how I'm doing these ratings now. I think I'm going to keep it rolling this same way. So there you go. That's NXT. I'm going to move on to WWE Evolve now. All right, we're back. We're doing Evolve now. This was last Wednesday, July 2nd. As I speak, I'm trying to squeeze in a review of Evolve while I'm here at work and there's no one around. Let's see if I can pull it off. All right, first of all, I wanted to say that the opening video package was very informative. It was not bad because it took us back a couple of months to when there was a three-way qualifier for to get into the Evolve Championship match to challenge for the first ever Evolve Championship. And the match had Jackson Drake from the Vanity Project. Sorry, there he is right there on the middle, on the right side right here. And he was facing off with Lince Dorada and Jordan Oasis. So his boys helped him cheat that day. Okay, I didn't really even remember it that clearly, but they helped him cheat, and he won that match, and he ended up becoming the eventual inaugural premier champion for Evolve. But Lince Dorado was mad after that, chased them off, and then several times has gotten involved in Swipe Right's business, Vanity Project's business, excuse me, including helping out Sean Legacy from an attack one time, and he's just been generally wanting a piece of their ass because he's pissed off about that one match still. So this is an ongoing feud, and then last week he enlisted the help of the LWO since he is a luchador, I guess. And he's going to be facing off. They're going to team up with the LWO, and they're going to face off against Vanity Project. That's tonight's main event. And that's basically the only storyline that they covered in the opening video package. So I will just go along the show, and I'll talk about whatever happens. I'll bring up the previous events leading up to it as well as we go. I'll get reminded of stuff and things like that. So with that being said, let's go on to the first storyline. Well, this is news to me. I wouldn't consider this the first storyline yet, but to open the show, they played a graphic that shows us that there's going to be a Evolve title match. So Natalya, who had been asking Stevie Turner, the authority figure here, for a women's championship match against the champion, Callie Armstrong, and it seems that Stevie Turner has acquiesced to her request. So that's going to happen, and tonight's going to be the contract signing. Now, there's all kinds of interesting aspects to this. Callie Armstrong was a disrespectful youngster at first when Natalya was supposed to present the first ever Evolve Championship belt to the champion, and Callie snatched it away from her. So that was the first incident they had together. And Natalya saved her ass one time when she was getting double teamed. So Natalya seemed like she swept it under the rug and still helped her. But it seems like that was just passive aggressive stuff because they teamed up. They had a tag team match against Nikita Lyons and Zeta Steel, and Natalya actually stole the pinfall. So Callie Armstrong looked like she was going to win. Natalya did that thing where she backslapped her and got in there and took the win. So Callie didn't say much on that night, but that's going to come back during their contract signing, which I will talk more about later. But yeah, this was an interesting announcement. I had been waiting to see if this was going to happen or how apprehensive Stevie Turner would be. She seemed like she didn't want to do it. Seems like she wants Natalya to really be like a mentor around here. It doesn't make sense for Natalya to be the champion of the developmental brand. Not even the developmental brand, the lower developmental brand. So, but storyline-wise, I guess it seems that everything did get to her. So she is pissed off about it, and she wants to get back at Callie for the disrespect. But we will discuss that more further on down the road. By the way, I am throwing out points today. I am going along the latest review system that I got, which is the same review system based on points as you see to the right of the screen. But from now on, I'm just doling them out wherever I see fit. If I see something that I think deserves points, I'm going to throw it out there. Any segment, any move, any angle. And then once the storyline is done for the day, I will generally review that storyline too, and that'll be another chance for this show to get points today. So as long as we end up on the positive side, I think that's a successful show, and I will not feel bad that I watched it. So hopefully we could just end up with at least some positive points today. All right, so first storyline, I guess I would say, yes, it's Idris Inoue, and he faced off against Jamar Hampton. So Jamar Hampton, who had stepped up and stood up for Dante Chen last week because Dante Chen debuted, but Idris Inoue was like offended that he took the spotlight that he had a few weeks before that as the new returning guy from injury. So he interrupted Dante Chen's promo, disrespected him, and left him laying. So he went backstage, and Jamar Hampton, who was a newbie, stepped up to Idris Inoue and said, hey, you know, that was not cool what you did. So they ended up, you know, booking a match between those two. So that's what opened the show. It was a match. Jamar Hampton and Idris Inoue. Idris Inoue did cut a promo. It was pre-recorded. One of them deals where they recorded the promo beforehand and played it while he was walking to the ring. And, you know, he was talking all kinds of smack that, you know, he has already proven himself to be a star when Jamar Hampton is still trying to be a star, which I'm like, yeah, okay, you know what? Maybe in the past, but in recent memory, all he's done, he's in that four-way, the inaugural championship four-way, which he ended up losing immediately. Like, he was the first guy to get pinned. He did a couple cool moves for a minute, and then he got pinned in like 2 minutes. So I don't know where all this confidence is that he's coming from. He's coming with. Well, I don't know where it's coming from. But, yeah, he did pick up the win. So it was a decent match, but I think I don't have any points to give out here. I didn't find it very, very entertaining or anything. So last week's angle I liked better, the backstage angle. This match didn't really capture me in any sense. So I'm moving on to the next storyline then. I'm still at 0 points on my Evolve review. Backstage, Lince Dorada. He's happy to be with the LWO today, having backup against the Vanity Project. Stevie Turner is there, very happy that he's recruited some main roster guys to join the show, so she's all up on him. You know, she's smiling and having a good time, having a good attitude, and that's it. I don't know, it's a little simple segment backstage. Nothing really much here either. I'm not really doling out any points for this segment either today, but the storyline will carry on later in the show. I'm going to move on here. Alright, here's another video package. I was kind of confused as to why they're doing this again. Last week, they had a little thing with Jack Cartwheel and Cappuccino Jones, who were talking about being brought up and getting signed to the developmental program and how they've been working for it all this time, working on the indies and all that, waiting for their opportunity, yeah, yada, yada, yada. And then here we are again with them two sitting in the same position, so it's probably from the same recording. But anyways, this segment is a little different because they have revealed their tag team name. They are Adrenaline Drip, because I guess Cappuccino Jones likes coffee. That's his thing. And he tried to get Jack Cartwheel into coffee, as he said here, and Jack Cartwheel's like, no, I'm already too hopped up on adrenaline. And then they kind of came up with it, a tag team name, Adrenaline Drip. Do I dig it? Not too much. So I don't think I have any points to give out here either. So slow start to the show today. No points so far. Still at 0 points, but I haven't taken anything off at least. So next up, we got Layla Diggs, she's the one here getting choked out, and she faced Jin Tala. So Layla Diggs here, I think she kind of seemed like the more impressive one to me in terms of athleticism. She reminded me a little bit of like had the same look as like Katana Chance and Kaden Carter sort of thing, but just more impressive athletically. So she did pulled off a lot of cool flips and stuff, just cartwheeling around. But in the end, Jin Tala was like the submission expert. So she had her in a submission a couple times, and she ended up tapping her out. So yeah, that was a decent match. I'd say I was more impressed with Layla Diggs out of the two, to be honest. But I'll dole out a half point here. Kind of liked it. Orange Cassidy, half thumbs up, okay, for the match here, and Layla Diggs. Watch out for her. Jin Tala, I think she's got a good look. I mean, she is not. She speaks English well, let's just say, because some of these Asian girls, she's an American girl. She's not like from China or Japan or something. But yeah, she got interviewed post-match by Chuy Martinez. Another chance to impress on the mic here. She just said she likes to win, you know? And basically, so I didn't think there was anything much there, but she wants to collect wins and rack up wins. I don't know. And based on the booking and her going over clean, I kind of assume that WWE think more of her than they do Layla Diggs. But okay. I guess we'll see. I'm not the expert here. But, oh, by the way, other than that, I forgot to mention that Jin Tala was in this match because of the attack on Arya Bennett. So Arya Bennett was supposed to be the opponent for Layla Diggs tonight, but she got attacked last week by the mystery assailant, who we still don't know who it is yet. I have a heavy suspicion that it was Natalya, but maybe not. Maybe it could have been Jin Tala. It could be a swerve. It could be a way of putting her over to turn her heel. I guess she did get a benefit off of this, as I mentioned last time. So I don't know. Maybe the Natalya thing is just her, like, with a personal thing for Callie and not necessarily everyone on the roster. So it doesn't have to be Natalya. I don't know. But we still didn't get any resolution on that. Actually, nothing happened on that today. There wasn't another attack or anything. So, all right, I'm going to move on from that, though. Let's see what else we had next. All right, the contract signing. Here's Natalya. So Natalya finally unleashed on Callie for all the disrespect. And Callie basically told her, like, yeah, this is not your time. It's my time. And how did this segment end? Callie got up. They went face-to-face. They went around the table. They were going to do a little face-to-face. Callie tried to hit her. And Natalya, in her high heels, ended up putting Callie down and putting her in the sharpshooter and standing over her with the title belt. So what do I think of all this? I do think it's a little strange that Natalya is so hell-bent on winning this, lower-level title, I guess. It's slightly amusing that she wants to, but not really. So it's a little confusing more than anything. I don't see why they really need her in this, except to maybe get Callie Armstrong some really good experience and have a really, really important match for a title. Is probably invaluable experience, I'm guessing. Not I'm guessing. For sure, it must be. But it doesn't change the fact that Callie has trouble making her promos sound legit. And other than that, I can't really give much credit to this. I'll give a half a point just for the angle. I didn't really think it was that great, even when Callie went for the attack on Natalya. It didn't look like she really was trying or anything like that. So I'll be nice and I'll give a little half point for this segment here too today. So I'm at a point. I'm at 1 point total today. All right, moving along. All right, so Timothy Thatcher, he was scolding Sean Legacy, who is somewhat his, not protege, but, they've been working together. Timothy Thatcher is the elder statesman, excuse me. He used to be on the original Evolve. So he's also like the protector of Evolve. For some reason, he's into this ID program, this WWE developmental program with Evolve, and he wants to protect it and give this company the same legitimacy it used to have when it was like its own company, I guess. So first of all, the first thing that happened here is he scolded Sean Legacy. He's like, "Yeah, you're trying to do too much when you were offering to fight all of the Vanity Project to get a title shot at Jackson Drake, because he tried that same thing where Ricky Starks is gonna go through the same thing, but he was gonna beat Bryce Donovan and swipe right, and he ended up losing, and that was just too tall a task in the end. So Timothy Thatcher, who thought it was a stupid idea at the time, says, "You see, you gotta be patient. You will be champion. Don't worry." And then he also mentioned that Timothy Thatcher is going to face Harlem Lewis, because Harlem Lewis is going to be not Harlem Lewis. I'm sorry, Keanu Carver. I don't know what I'm thinking. So Keanu Carver, since he's come back, since he didn't win that inaugural championship match to become the Evolve champion, he's just been going crazy, pissed off, attacking people in the ID program. So Timothy Thatcher wants to step up and defend the honor of Evolve again. So, all right, let me see. What do I think? I'll split this up into a couple of angles here. So I'll give a half point for him and Sean Legacy, and being his mentor and all that, telling him what he did wrong and how he was jumped the gun and tried to do too much. So I like that part. And then also for him stepping up to Keanu Carver, I'll give him another half point for that too, because that should be an interesting matchup. Keanu Carver is a beast. Timothy Thatcher is a veteran, so it shouldn't be a squash or anything. But I'm curious as to what's going to happen. I suspect a Keanu Carver win, really, but we will hear from Keanu Carver in a little bit. Let me see. What's coming up next? Chantel Monroe. Okay, so she cut a promo, another arrogant promo. She's been extremely arrogant is basically the summary of what her persona is. And she even mentioned how Mason Holiday has been, talking about her and stuff. And she just says that she's not going to change her attitude for anybody on this roster, and that she's coming after Callie Armstrong's title. So there you go. What do I think of her promo? I think I was indifferent to it. I won't say I didn't like it, but I don't think she was very believable. I don't see her as being this total, self-consumed, self Mercedes Moné type. I don't buy it the same way I buy Mercedes, that's really Mercedes. So this is a tough one for me. I think they put her out there to try to make herself be this arrogant girl who's thinks she's so pretty. But I'm not really buying the whole character at the moment, and the confidence and all that. So maybe we'll see if she grows into it, but I can't give out any points here today. I'm sorry. Moving on. Let's see what we got. Let me see what we got. We got the main event. All right. So this is the big six-man tag. Lince Dorada and his boys, the LWO, Joaquin Wilde and Cruz del Toro. They're facing off against the Vanity Project, Bryce Donovan, the champion, and Swipe Right, Ricky Smokes, and Brad Baylor. So pretty good match. I will say I think there was one spot. There was a high spot that Lince Dorada went over the top rope and onto Jackson Drake. I'm sorry. So I might give a little half point for an over the top rope dive. Fuck it, Lince Dorada. He is a really short guy, by the way. I don't know if that's a problem for him. He's good. He's got good movement. Athletically, he's smooth and everything, but he's just tiny. That's the only thing I'll point out there. But yeah, overall, that's all I'm going to give points for this match. It's a win for the baby faces. And post-match, the Swipe Right and the Vanity Project back off while the baby faces are in the ring gloating and talking shit. So there you go. No points for me on the main event. I think it was all right, but didn't really move me enough to hand out any points. But yeah, there you go. That's my review of Evolve. I got 2.5 points. Not too much today. Sometimes it does better. There was nothing to do with the backstage attacks with the women. Nothing, no clue as to anything in terms of the storyline there. Just your basic show. I guess it moves us along to the next week. Some episodes of Evolve are more eventful than others. Sometimes nothing happens. Sometimes a whole lot happens. So this was one of those meeker weeks, I guess, for Evolve. But all right, Callie Armstrong and Natalia next week. Let's see what happens. I'll be back to review Impact. All right. I'm back with another live stream. This is number 36, if I'm not mistaken. And we're trying to get done with NXT, Evolve, and Impact. So I've done NXT and Evolve. Now moving on to TNA Impact. So I've changed venues. I'm at my house now. It's actually morning time. I fell asleep. I had meant to do this last night and knock it out, but it's all good. We're getting ready for Monday Night Raw tonight. It's Monday. And more importantly, we're getting ready for NXT tomorrow, because who cares about Raw, man? Raw and SmackDown suck. It's all about NXT and TNA Impact. So, give me 1 second. Let me change the filter settings on this. I feel like I'm too loud. Sorry about this. Doing it on the fly. Doing it on the fly. That's good enough right there. All right. So, Impact. So I'm trying out a new scoring system today. Same scoring system kind of thing you see on the right. This is how we've always reviewed things on our show. Not whether we think they're good or not, but more whether we think we like them. Because, you know, we're not experts here. I mean, I've had panelists who pretend to be experts, but no, the only one who was really an expert was Vlad. Vlad, the wrestling expert. But um, me, I'm not an expert. I'm just a goddamn low-life malapert. But yeah, so I'm trying out a new rule system for doing our reviews here, and I have some new rules. So I'm gonna read them. Let's see. Nowadays, I'm just dishing out points, so you could just give out points for anything you feel like, basically. A segment, if you like the segment, a move, a sell, a crowd interaction, a finish, a booking, a promo, a match, just whatever you could think of, anything. Relatedly, you can also take off points, thumbs down, two thumbs down, etc. will take off points. Uh, and you could take off points for botches, weak work, weak promos, booking you don't like, in general, problems with the wrestling or the writing, anything, whatever you could think of. And also, we get one extra chance to add some points at the end of the storyline if a storyline is done for the night, or at the end of the night if we want to add points for the entire storyline as it was for this evening, single episode storylines, then you can add points there too. So plenty of chances to add points. I'm doing this because I want to raise the scores on these. I want to give a good score. I want to make it seem like there was something positive here. So to me, any score over a 0.0 is a good rating to me. I know I'm a easy critic, but yes, positive, good, negative, bad. Hey, I've had shows I reviewed where it all ended up in the negative, like -5 or something. Um, so let's see if this will work out today. So TNA Impact. Let's see where we're at. We're on July 3rd, last Thursday as we speak, and we started with some video packages to open the show. So they reviewed some stuff. Joe Hendry and Mike Santana, namely, are going after that TNA title. They played Joe Hendry's promo here. They played Mike Santana's promo. Also, trying to get into that match, make it a three-way. He asked Santino. As of last Impact, that's where they left us off. And then they also reviewed Cedric Alexander coming back and confronting Mustafa Ali at the behest of Mustafa Ali's crestfallen stablemates, the Order 4 and Tasha Steelz. So we're going to get a follow-up to that, it seems, since they put it on the opening of the show. But okay, I'm going to start off with our first storyline of the day. We're in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania today. All right, so same as last week. I don't know if it was a double taping or a new taping. I'm not really following that type of stuff. I just want to follow what happens on the show, really. I got enough to talk about. But yeah, we got an announcement. All right, so this is official. It's going to be a three-way. It's Santana. He's forced his way into that match, and he's going to take on Joe Hendry and the champion Trick Williams, NXT's Trick Williams. So both Joe Hendry and Santana are trying to get that belt back
for TNA, as we saw on NXT earlier in the week, 2 days prior. But okay, so first storyline of the day starts with the Inspiration. They have a match, but before the Inspirations match, they showed a digital exclusive. I guess this is something that happened during the week that they probably posted on their social medias or something. And it was the Elegance brand, Ash by Elegance, um, basically showing up to a like autograph signing for the Inspiration, who are back in TNA, and they have, and she's just gonna disrespect them and start a fight with them. So that's what happened. There was a pull apart. Security was there. You know, Ash by Elegance was acting all crazy. So that was cool. I kind of like that. I like that they heated up that feud a little bit. So I'll throw a half point at them over there for this midweek thing that happened and the little review of it. So that's the first thing they showed. Next, we had a match. So the Elegance brand is going to watch from backstage as the Inspiration. Here they are, the Inspiration. So I had to do a little bit of research on them. I didn't really know much about them at all. They used to be in WWE apparently. Apparently they're former WWE Women's Tag Team Champions. So they're on that list of champions. They used to be the Iconics. Now they're the Inspirations, always with two eyes. So this one is Jessie McKay. I guess she used to wrestle in WWE as Billy Kay. And then this one now is Cassie Lee, and she used to be Peyton Royce. So they've had to change their name since leaving WWE. But okay, so they got a match today, and it's against Tessa Blanchard and Victoria Crawford, who had been aligned as heels recently with Robert Stone, who has disappeared off the face of the earth. Well, he's in Evolve. He's commentating on Evolve, but he hasn't taken any shame on Evolve for losing to Santino. They don't even mention it over there. But regardless, all right, so this is a pretty solid matchup, three former WWE champions in the ring with Tessa Blanchard. And let's see what notes I got on this. Well, I did mention that the Elegance brand are watching it all backstage because the Inspiration are supposedly their, next opponents are the ones who are stepping up to them. Oh, and Indy Hartwell. So Indy Hartwell was watching from commentary. So it seems like every time they put someone at commentary, there's going to be some kind of like altercation or something. So it's kind of been like a giveaway recently in TNA and in AEW. But regardless, um, the Inspiration end up beating Victoria. They pinned Victoria Crawford because Tessa Blanchard, who was thrown out of the ring, kind of got into it with Indy, like I said. So she started jaw-jacking with her, and Victoria was left on her own to take the pinfall. So that was the match. Decent matchup. I'm not going to throw any points at it, though, but I'll have a post-match where Indy and Tessa were actually getting into it on the outside. They started pushing each other. Security tries to pull them apart, and there's a little pull apart. Indy's standing up to Tessa. She's a little taller than she is, so it's kind of funky. The matchup. I like the booking. I like the booking. This is obviously going to be a match as Indy grabs the mic and basically challenges Tessa to a match at Slammiversary. So, all right, for this little post-match thing, I'll throw a half point at it. I kind of like this. I'm really more looking forward to the match to see how that goes. But regardless, all right. So next up, we got an announcement. Yes, it is official. The Elegance brand will take on the Inspiration graphic. If there's a graphic for it, then it must be true. All right. So I am looking forward to that. The Inspiration, I found them to be a little bit um, hokey, I guess, in their gimmick, a little too unrealistic and just silly. So, but I could say the same about the Elegance brand, but they're at least kind of funny. Um, so, all right, I don't really see the Inspiration winning it, but who knows? They are former WWE Tag Team Champions, so maybe they're trying to inject them into this show and spice up this tag team division. I guess we'll see. We have lost Spitfire, so next up we got the Mustafa Ali segment. All right, so this was billed as a. Oh shit, did I skip something? I think I did. Hold on one second. All right, yes, I did skip something. This is something that I had meant to bookmark. It is Tessa versus Indy that we just saw them jaw jacking and challenged to a match, it literally immediately got made. So as we came back from commercials, that was announced that this match is official. Like I said, looking forward to it. Good booking. You know what? I'll throw another half point at it just to making the match. Fuck it. I'm excited for that match. That's gonna be a good one. All right, moving on now. So now we're moving on to the Mustafa Ali and Cedric Alexander segment. So this was billed as a segment where Tasha was going to address the TNA universe, I guess, of what is going on with the Order 4. So basically, when they were doing the opening graphics and what's coming up on the show, what's coming up on the show, so they build this as Tasha Steelz is going to address. So she came out first. She got a ring walk entrance. She walked in there. She grabbed the mic. She was in the ring, and she didn't say much other than just to bring everybody out to have a mediation. So she didn't really address anything. Um, but she brings out basically Cedric to mediate peace. So Cedric comes in there. Um, Mustafa Ali comes in there. Cedric talks first. He tells him, "Hey," talks about their history, that how they put the cruiserweight division, I guess at the time, on the map, and then talked about their match at WrestleMania. They got at WrestleMania, and he even mentioned that Cena was in the front row, and then Cena gave them a standing O after the match. So, man, for that one, for that little tidbit, I'm gonna give that a thumbs down. I'm taking off a point for that because who cares if Cena is watching your match and likes your match? Jesus, what a thing to brag about. But yeah, they did get on WrestleMania, though. I will give them that. That was sort of an accomplishment, and I guess it made some noise back in the days that they were having some pretty solid, indie style matches, hard hitting indie style matches, I would presume. I've never seen them. This is an era of wrestling that I didn't watch, but basically, when Mustafa Ali grabs the mic, he tells Cedric, uh, well, I want a rematch. He's like, if you want to help me, if you're here to help, give me a rematch, because I guess he's always held it in his heart that he lost that match. He lost his WrestleMania moment. And Cedric accepts. So Cedric Alexander's like, fine, if that's how you want to do it, let's do it. And Ali attacks Cedric, but basically Ali is thwarted by Order 4 because Ali's security comes in there. He came out with 4 security guards as he always does, and I guess those are his henchmen now because it seems like the Order 4 have defected to be with Cedric Alexander. It seems, although I don't really know where this is going exactly. It also could be, I was thinking, a swerve. Like if all of Order 4 is still with Mustafa Ali, like all the mistreatment he's been doing to them, maybe it's all been an act just to draw Cedric Alexander in here so he could get over on him this way. So I could see that happening. Um, that's kind of where I hope it's going. I don't really hope that Cedric just takes over a new stable like that. I think Mustafa Ali needs like a push, a good heel win for him as he lost to Mike Santana last time, so he needs some credibility and he deserves it. He's a good wrestler, he's a good character. So I think this segment worked to me. I'm gonna give it a thumbs up. So I'm gonna add a point for this whole segment. There you go. All right, next up, we have a video package, I think. It's the former tag team of Masha Slamovich and Killer Kelly. Killer Kelly, who just came back out of nowhere. They explained some more of their history. Didn't exactly explain why they're not aligned anymore, which is something that I was curious about myself. But it was an all right video package. I'll give it I'll give it a half point for being dramatic, but I won't give it a full point because it just didn't explain enough to me for someone who has not been watching that long. I've been watching since last October, so I'm almost a year in. I guess the Killer Kelly Masha stuff was before that, so I'm not filled in on it. But they had a chain match today, so that's coming up. This is a video package for that chain match. All right, so this is the chain match. Came up next. Hard hitting match. I guess the chains were supposed to be like a symbol of how they used to be a team. They used to carry chains around. So I didn't think it was a really awesome match that I loved. The chain kind of gets in the way of doing moves sometimes. They fought up the ramp and all that. In the end, Masha choked her out. I'll give a point for the finish. I liked how it looked. I like how Killer Kelly sold it, and I liked how Masha was all fucking crazy doing it. So I'm gonna give a point to that today. So that was a good one, and Masha retains, so she's still Knockouts champion. So that was just a bump in the road. I don't know. I feel like they could have done more with that overall. For the whole match and the storyline, I'm not gonna give any points, but I did like the finish, so I'm moving on. All right, next up. Oh, there was an afterbirth. Yes, I forget. Fatal Influence. So I'm uh I'm gonna add a point for the surprise. Thank you NXT for coming. So WWE in the house. They actually jumped Masha Slamovich and Jasmine Nix, who I had mentioned I saw on the Tuesday NXT because they're feuding with Jordan Grace. Kind of funky that JC Jane is feuding with Jordan Grace and Masha Slamovich at the same time. She actually picked up Masha's belt and looked at it, so she wants both titles, I presume. It seems kind of interesting to me. I thought maybe they would uh, have her drop the titles to Jordan, but maybe they got something bigger planned for JC Jane. I don't know. Maybe they want to make JC Jane famous. If she is feuding with Jordan and Masha, that seems like a good tag team match they could do, an inter promotional match. And maybe she'll retain against Jordan and win the TNA title. That would be interesting. But okay, so they were gonna beat her down more, and Masha got saved by Xia Li, or sorry, Lei Ying Li and Xia Brookside. So yes, two baby faces came out. So Xia Brookside with the save, who was actually hurt, by the way. We'll see that later on the injury report. So I thought that was impressive. But I'll talk about that later on when we get to the injury report. But moving on to the next one. All right, let's see. This is a review. So they showed a replay. This was Eric Young getting caught trying to cheat, help the Northern Armory, his stable, against the Hardys, but he got caught red-handed like immediately and got thrown out. So this is just a replay of that. I won't give any points for showing a replay, although sometimes I do give credit for just reminding the audience of something. But yeah, so they jumped straight into a scene that they didn't show from last week. So this was last week after that when he was getting pushed to the back by security. And a funny thing happened backstage. Man, I really love this. This was a segment I really loved. I'm actually going to give a lot of points here because so Eric Young was pissed off getting thrown out of the arena. He's telling security, "Hey, and I'll leave when I want to, back off." And then he bumps into Hometown Man, which is Cody Deaner. So he's saying Cody Deaner shouldn't even be here. He lost that stipulation match that, he's not allowed in the building and he's just wearing a mask, right? So he's pissed off about that. He's like, and Deaner's like, "I'm not Cody Deaner. I'm Hometown Man." So Eric Young goes crazy, like, "Oh, I guess if I wear a mask, then I'm not Eric Young either." And that's the image I put here, the one image I saved, which was fucking hilarious to me. That segment really got to me, man. I I'm gonna give that segment a heart. I'm gonna add 3 points for that whole segment. Just because, even though it was a replay and not a replay, something they didn't show before. Oh no, they did. It's a digital exclusive. I see here. Okay, so this was online. But hey, I'm still giving 3 points for including it here on this show. I hadn't seen it, so that was fucking hilarious to me. Really liked it. I'm moving on though. The very next segment. Okay, so this is an interesting segment. This is the Northern Armory, the stable that Eric Young stole away from Josh Alexander, right? Judas Icarus, Travis Williams, and Eric Young is laying into them. He's like, "Yeah, after I got thrown out, you guys just lost flat out. You're embarrassing." It's like, "Maybe I should put you guys down." And they're like, "Nah, give us another chance. It'll be better," and all that. But Judas Icarus is doing his faces. Usually I like his crazy faces. But on today's episode, I'm taking off points because it was a little over the top, not even really matching what was going along. So I'm at a -1 point for Judas Icarus faces. But overall, the segment and Eric Young's performance and the seriousness, it's gonna counteract the Judas Icarus effect. So I'm giving 2 points back just for Eric Young here. Um, let's see. I'm moving on. I'm moving on from this backstage segment. I really like Eric Young though. Eric Young is fucking funny. Next up, we got the injury report, the aforementioned injury report. So Trey Miguel, I think he was supposed to face off with Nick Nemeth tonight, but since he can't do it, Zachary Wentz is doing it. He got a hernia. Trey Miguel out for a little while, I guess. Interesting injury, but TNA tag team division bitten by the injury bug as Chris Bay and now Trey Miguel. But hopefully Trey Miguel won't be out that long because he still looks like they still want him involved in this World Tag Title feud that's coming up. Just a temporary thing. Zaya Brookside, as I mentioned. So apparently she's day to day with a knee injury, but she still found it within herself to go help Masha Slamovich, who she's not even aligned with that closely. But since there were NXT girls coming in, attacking their world champion, she's a babyface. So, you know what? I find that impressive. Now that they mentioned that to us and that she went out there and helped Masha even with a knee injury, I'm going to add a point there for Zaya Brookside. All right. What do we got else? AJ Francis. Oh my God. He got fucked up last week by fucking Mike Santana. He got nailed with a champagne bottle. He got smashed through a table off the ring apron, and yet he's still cleared. He got fucked up, but he's got head and lower back pain, but apparently he's still cleared. So you know what? I'm impressed with AJ Francis's resolve and just ability to take punishment because it was bad last week. So I'm gonna give a point for AJ Francis, even though he's not here today. He still made me smile. So fuck it. I'm doling out points today. All right, next up we got Santana. It's a promo backstage. He's you know, all intense and fired up, waiting for this three-way. Again, he's using the thing about his daughter, that he wants to do this so he can go home and not feel like a failure to his daughter and shit. That's his thing here. I don't know. I didn't really feel too much for this. Actually, I was thinking about this promo last night because before I was actually gonna do my review, I was thinking about what I was gonna say. And man, I couldn't think of one thing from this episode today that I actually would want to play that I thought was a good promo or something that was really good, really fiery, or anything like that. Um, Santana, man, there's just something about him that doesn't really land with me. I hate saying that sometimes because it's just like, yeah, he's just not becoming a star. He's getting airtime, he's getting time to talk, but he's not getting even the traction that Joe Hendry did. So what's up with that? I don't know if it's how he talks or just what he says. Um, Something is not landing with this audience, and I think they like him just because he's a great worker, and it's kind of like you deserve it, you deserve it. But it's something about the promo and the character that's not really landed to me. Maybe I'll think about that more and try to express it in another way later on because I want to move on. But yeah, no points for me here for this Santana promo. But next up, we got the System. I think, yeah, it's Eddie Edwards against Matt Cardona. So this is the ending, though. This is what happened after the match. It's Alicia and Eddie are really mad at Brian Myers, but I'm going to explain how we got there. The match was supposed to be Eddie Edwards against Always Ready Matt Cardona, right? So Alicia, her husband, was with Eddie. She was with her husband. She was the valet. They're both in the System. So Alicia was doing a couple of um, interference spots. She grabbed the leg at one point, gave Eddie Edwards the advantage. Then she slipped Eddie Edwards the ring, the System ring, because they all have a ring that they show their unity with. But I guess he was going to use it a la MJF. So yeah, he was going to like, I don't know if I have any thought about that, the fact that they're stealing that from MJF. I mean, I guess it's a different company. They can do it. Why not? MJF doesn't really do it much anymore. So they were going to do the old MJF, hit him with the System ring. And then Brian Myers came out and, you know, all out of nowhere has a conscience. Usually these people are like horrible heels. They're in the System, obviously fuck the System and all that. But for some reason, this is the first time he's shown like a hint of babyfaceness, if you want to call it that. So it was out of nowhere. I don't know. I'll give it a half point just for being out of nowhere. But it also kind of rubbed me the wrong way because it just didn't really make sense. Like, it is Brian Myers turning face? Is this the first like stop on him trying to leave the System? So I don't know. I'm not really gonna give any points for the match either. But you know what? There is an afterbirth. So this was an interesting moment. Another NXT invasion. Excuse me. Earlier we had JCJ, now we had Dark State. So the lights went out and everything. Matt Cardona was standing in the ring after winning that match against Eddie Edwards while the System are on the entranceway. And Dark State come in the ring and they beat the shit out of Matt Cardona and leave him laying. So that's the surprise of the day. And I had been talking about this on NXT that you know what, they haven't been doing anything with these guys. They're trying to just keep them on the show with these pre-recorded promos and them saying, "Yeah, we still run this place and we'll decide when we attack." And I'm like, "All right, I don't know. I'm not really feeling them anymore." They kind of had a moment where they were in there with some top guys, but as of right now, nothing going on. And then they show up on Impact. Like, what the fuck? That was kind of super unexpected. But yeah, Eddie Edwards and Alicia, they back off, obviously. They don't want anything to do with these guys. And another problem with it I have is probably something that doesn't make sense is why Matt Cardona, of all people? Like, he's not even really signed to any company per se. He's not even a TNA wrestler. He considers himself always a free agent, always ready. So what is the deal with that? I think it was just basically a cheap way of figuring a way to shoehorn Matt Cardona into the WWE show because they probably want him back there for a few appearances to face off against Dark State. It's not a bad idea. It's just the way they did it didn't really make sense. Why would they attack him? I'm sure they'll come up with some kind of uh, explanation or something. But still, for the surprise and for the NXT WWE crossover, fuck it, I'm adding 2 points on here. I'll still give it a 2 thumbs up. I liked it a lot. Moving on. All right, backstage. Hometown Man. Oh shit. Hometown Man has been beaten up and unmasked. So for the segment, man, this was probably Eric Young. But yeah, Sammy Callahan and Zachary Wentz are looking after him. The trainer, they're asking for more medical help, but they don't show his face, so they're kind of protecting him here. But I presume that was Eric Young. So I'm gonna give a half point just for the segment, just for Zachary Wentz and Sammy Callahan being silly there. And you know what? For the overall storyline today, and the new thing we got with Cody Deaner and Eric Young, I think I'm gonna really enjoy that. So I'm gonna say I love this. I'm gonna give 3 extra points for the whole storyline today. So I'm at 16 points. For the introduction of Cody Deaner and Hometown Man and Eric Young, I'm adding 3 bonus points onto my total today. So I'm at 16 points, not bad so far, but I'm still not through this show yet. Let's see what we got. We got a video package next. Yes, it's Leon Slater, sorry. Really good video package, by the way. I'm gonna give a point for the video package. It told a lot about his childhood and how he grew up a TNA fan, actually. It was kind of a rebellious thing to be a TNA fan, but in England there was like a little underground that watched TNA. And he thinks if he grew up in America, he wouldn't have, actually gotten into that and maybe not been a wrestler. So he was wrestling since he was 9 years old. A lot of things about his family. Very good, deep video package. So I think it deserves a point from me there. Moving on, moving on. We had a backstage segment, or did I skip something? Sorry, hold on 1 second. All right, sorry about that. I got mixed up with my slides a little bit. Skipped one. So yeah, there was a match before that backstage segment. I'll get to that in a second. But the match was going to be Jake something against Mance Warner, who was obviously there with his girlfriend, Steph DeLander, his real life girlfriend, and on-screen girlfriend at the moment. Last thing I heard. But yeah, she's there smooching on him and everything. They're doing their thing, and he has a fight with Jake something. So both of these guys have had um, spoken about how they want to get after that international title that Steve Maclin has. And Steve Maclin, of course, is here on commentary. There he is, so that's a dead giveaway that he's going to get involved in this match. And he basically does get involved in the match because Mance Warner ended up jaw-jacking with Maclin, and then Jake something nailed Maclin by mistake when he was trying to nail Warner. And then Maclin just said, fuck it, and he jumped in, started fighting with them, and that caused the DQ. So there was a big three-way pull apart for a minute, and then Mance Warner leaves and just, acts crazy with Steph DeLander, makes out with her a while, something, and Maclin keep fighting and keep getting pulled apart, and they just laugh about it on the entranceway. Mance Warner and Steph DeLander do. So, what do I think of that match? Do I give any points for this match? sure, I'll throw a half point in there just for them progressing this storyline and them fighting on the outside. I don't much like the DQ finish and how that just ended out of nowhere, but I guess it made sense where this is headed. It looks like it's headed towards a three-way, and we do find that out in the very next segment. This is the only shot I could find of all three of them getting pulled apart. The camera then zooms in on everybody and their crazy faces. But yeah, basically they zoom in on Macklin, and Macklin's like, "Yeah, fuck it, I'll take on all three of you, or all both of you in a three-way at the same time." So he's down. So fuck it, Macklin's brave. I'll give him a point for that. For taking on both of them. That should be a decent matchup. Jake something. I like his character in a way, just his look. He's got a great look, his work, but something about that name, Jake something. Like every time I have to write it down when I'm writing my notes for wrestling, it just feels silly that I'm talking about some guy named Jake something. I don't know. He could come up with a different name other than something. You got to come up with something, bro, not just the word something. But I don't know. That might be something that holds him back. If WWE got him, I'm sure they wouldn't call him Jake something. But okay, let's see what I got next. We got a match. It's Zachary Wentz. All right, so Zachary Wentz, and he's facing off against Nick Nemeth, who's with his brother Ryan Nemeth. Zachary Wentz did have um, some backup, I guess, since his boy is injured. I guess the commentary team introduced this dude Myron Reed as being a former Rascal. So I don't know if that's true, if he was literally in the Rascals. They said he was making his return to TNA, looked like for the evening. But let's see. I got some spots here. Couple of high spots for Zachary Wentz that I'll mention in this one. He went through the ropes and nailed Ryan Nemeth on the outside. Ryan Nemeth wasn't really doing much the first time he got nailed, but then, as you see here in this image, he does interfere. He grabs the leg. So here's him trying to help out his brother. This leads to a over-the-top rope splash onto Ryan Nemeth again, and then this was enough of a distraction. When he got back in the ring, he got nailed by Dolph Ziggler. So he ended up losing the match. So yeah, they're going to be involved in a four-way for the World Tag Team titles at Slammiversary. It seems the Rascals are. So this moved that feud along. It wasn't too consequential a match, though, I will say. A little bit filler. So I'm not going to give any points, unfortunately. But I'm moving on to the next one. Alright, next, we're coming up on the last segment of the show, but before that, they did show some replays of WWE programming earlier in the week, NXT, where Trick enlisted Wes Lee to take down Joe Hendry, and Santana was there to watch Joe Hendry's back as they continued their feud with Trick Williams on NXT, trying to bring back that TNA World title to TNA. So, the final segment of the night, it was gonna be called the King's Speech. So they kind of like when they were doing the opening video packages and graphics, they were talking about what's coming up on the show, and they made it seem like Kazarian is this big deal, and he's got his own segment tonight, King's Speech. But no set or anything. It just looked like this. He just invited everyone to the ring. I didn't really know what to expect. He didn't really say much. Did some heel stuff. Kind of seemed apprehensive to really be hosting this segment with everyone in it and not being involved in this title match at all. So I think it seemed like that got to him, but he did conduct the interview anyways, and he did let Trick talk. So Trick was the one guy on this crew that he actually respected, and you know they're in cahoots. They're on the same side. And then he was gonna let Joe Hendry talk, but he did the disrespectful thing of pulling the mic and not letting Joe Hendry talk. Did the same thing to Santana, but Santana grabbed the mic from him. So I'll give a half point to Santana for not burying himself. Kind of liked how they did that. So he made himself look good there. At least he didn't let Kazarian disrespect him. So I thought that was good for his character. Then he handed off the mic to Joe Hendry, who also cut his promo. Trick cut his promo. So they're all talking about how, they're going to win. And Trick is like, nope, I've already beat both of you and all that. So, because in the end, Kazarian kind of distracts them. They turn their back on Trick, and Trick attacks the baby faces from behind, and it's a 2-on-1 attack. And they fight for a minute, and then Trick Williams nails Joe Hendry with the title belt, the TNA World title belt, and then hits the trick shot on Santana, leaves them both laying, and that's how the show goes off the air, as Kazarian and Trick Williams stood tall. I guess he'd rather align himself with Trick than the other two guys, I guess. So there you go. That's how it ended. Would I give any points for this final segment today? I don't know. I'm not so hot for this feud leading into this three-way. I don't know what to expect. I still think it's kind of the time for Mike Santana, but maybe they want to keep the title on Trick and just make this storyline where NXT takes everything from TNA. Like it seems like they're going that way with the women's knockouts title, possibly. I'm not sure yet, but yeah, that's all. That's all I got today. No points for this final segment for me. I'm gonna take a wait and see approach and see what happens in that match and see if there's any booking that I think is heading in the direction that I like. So, all right, that's it for today. But yeah, good score for TNA Impact today. 19 points, plus 19 points. That's not bad. I'm gonna say that's a positive review. I think it was a decently enjoyable show. Maybe there could have been more in it. You know, there could have been some kind of fire promo that I really liked, but no, nothing in the promos. The only guy I liked really was Eric Young, and I might, as a bonus, since I'm just not really wanting to leave TNA World yet, I might just play his segment with Cody Deaner backstage, where he got, pissed that he was getting thrown out of the building, and Cody Deaner got to stay. So that'll be my segment of the show today. Segment of the show, let's call it. So, bonus segment here.
Oh, yeah. He loses a match and I've got to leave the building. Cody Deaner's not even allowed to be in the building ever again.
I'm not Cody Deaner. I'm the hometown man.
Shut your mouth. I saw you in Arizona. I know you.
I'm not.
You're Cody. I'll leave with
I'm not from Arizona. I'm from Pittsburgh.
I'm not Eric Young now. I'm not Eric Young. Come on,
Get out of here. Get out of here.
I'll see you.
Get out of here.
I'll see you. Get out of here.
Come on.
Alright, that'll do it for my review of Impact today. I plan on coming back tomorrow with my review of SmackDown and Monday Night Raw from tonight. So tomorrow I should be able to pull off giving thoughts on SmackDown, which I haven't seen yet, but I'll watch it today, and then Monday Night Raw tonight. So let's do that next chance we get. Alright, see you everybody. Have a good day. Do whatever you gotta do. Do your best, whatever the fuck and all that shit. Like and subscribe. Thank you very much.